Qizzkiters! In this video, we're going to talk all about how to use GitHub collaboratively. So we're going to talk about updating your branch when other people have also been committing code, as well as opening pull requests and the code review process. So in our last video, we talked about our friend Alice. She had some changes to her test repo that she made in her new branch. And she's now updated her repository in GitHub with all of her latest changes. She's finished all her work, she's pushed it to GitHub, but now she wants to integrate the changes that she's made in her new branch feature into her main branch. But test repo is a collaborative repo. She really wants her friend Bob to help review her code and check that it is good quality. So in order to do that, what she's going to do is open a pull request, which she can do in her GitHub platform. You can see she's recently pushed her new branch, and so there's this nice big green button that says she can compare and do a pull request. Or if she goes to her branches tab, she can also scroll over and there's a new pull request button on the far right there. Why is it called a pull request and not a push request? Mostly historical reasons. Essentially, you have your branch feature and you're kind of pulling that feature into the main branch. Maybe that makes sense to you, maybe it doesn't. There are a lot of things that are named in software for historical reasons. Developers are pretty bad at naming stuff. Python was named after Monty Python for who knows what reason. So just embrace it and remember it and move on. So let's talk a bit about why is code review important? Why does Alice want Bob to review her code so badly? And there are a number of different reasons. The first one is to catch errors. By having someone else read your code, having a fresh set of eyes on it, you're more likely to catch any bugs that you might have accidentally added. It's kind of like the developer equivalent of proofreading. It's also going to help maintain code quality and style. Alice can benefit from the expertise that Bob brings in reviewing her code. And maybe the two of them have agreed on a set standard of style to writing their code that they want to make sure that the other one is following. It also promotes discussion and collaboration. By showing her code to Bob, Bob can give Alice feedback and maybe provoke new ideas or question why she took a certain interpretation over another one. And then it also becomes a learning opportunity for both the code author and the code reviewer. The reviewer and the code author perhaps have different styles of writing code or different ways of addressing a certain code problem. And so by sharing those ideas with each other, they might learn something from each other. It also helps to deter any laziness amongst dev. I think you're always naturally going to be doing your best work if you know that someone else is going to be looking at it and reviewing it. So it means that you're just going to take a bit more care in the code that you write and make sure it's readable, make sure it's good quality. Okay, so once Alice has actually decided she wants to open a pull request, she's clicked that big green pull request button. In GitHub, she'll get taken to this screen. She'll add a sensible title here. This should be a one-line summary of everything that was done in that branch. So if you might find that if you're struggling to come up with a single sentence to describe what the branch does, it's probably an indication that branch is doing too many things. So in this case, Alice had a very simple feature. She just added a new file. So that's going to be the title of her pull request. And then she's going to add a description, which gives a little bit more detail. This is just a simple example, so there isn't much detail to it. But you can imagine for a more complex feature, there might be more description needed. You might also want to talk about what the goal of the PR, what's included in it. Imagine that your reviewer is looking at this for the first time, doesn't really know what's going on, and be as descriptive as possible. A couple of other things to note about this view within the GitHub UI is that you can very clearly see what you're comparing your feature branch to. So here, Alice is comparing her new branch to the main branch. She could also, for example, if she branched off of a different branch and she wants to compare it to another branch, she can select which ones she wants to compare. Another thing is she can either click Create Pull Request, and that will open a whole new pull request, or if she clicks the drop-down button, she has the option to open a draft pull request. This might be, you might want to do this at the early stages of development. Maybe you just want to get some code out there and invite discussion or changes early on in the process. So making it a draft pull request kind of invites that feedback, but still tells people, hey, I'm still working on this. It's not quite ready for a formal review yet. It's maybe a little bit more rough around the edges, a bit more hacky. Okay, so this is what her PR might look like when it's open. It has her title at the top. She can also navigate between these tabs to see the commit history specifically for this pull request, or she can, the really important part is the Files Changes tab. This is where Bob can go in and view any changes that were made and compare line by line the difference between the changes that Alice has made and the main branch that she's comparing it to. They'll always show the main branch on the left and any code changes on the right. Here she can also add more comments, update her description, and involve more discussion. And Bob, when he's reviewing, he can click this review button and add comments to any changes that were made in the files. At the bottom of the PR, there's normally this kind of boxy section here. Sometimes it might tell you if your branch is out of date with the main branch. That just means that the main branch has moved ahead. There's been more commits made to that branch than is currently reflected in your branch, in your pull request. So you can just click the Update Branch button to kind of make sure that those changes from the main branch are reflected. Because any new feature that gets merged into main needs to, also have the most up-to-date version of main as part of it. If you have any conflicts, it might show up here as you have conflicts, and you can resolve those by clicking the Resolve button. Sometimes you'll need to go line by line and review those files yourself. And if all things good, you might get this nice big green box which says there's no conflicts and it's ready to merge in. If you have slightly stricter permissions on your pull request, maybe Alice has said, I can't merge any features into the main branch unless I have an approving review. So only if Bob has read through it and given me kind of a thumbs up on it and said formally that he approves it, only then will this merging become available. And those permissions can vary depending on the repo and who's in charge of it. One point to note is that when you update that, when you press this update branch, if you're doing any updates like in the GitHub UI, all this will do will update the new branch that's in the GitHub version of that test repo. So it won't update the branch that's on Alice's local machine. And before merging into main, Alice can still update her branch as she normally does. She can work locally and commit and push things as she usually does. And those changes will automatically show up in the pull request. The only thing that is different is if she clicks update with, like I said earlier, in the PR itself, she will need to then make sure that she is pulling into her local branch to get those updates that she's made in the platform. So just always be a bit careful when you're doing a pull request. If you're clicking on things in the GitHub website, you are only updating the version of your code that lives in the GitHub website. If you're doing anything locally, you need to always be making sure you're updating the stuff that's in GitHub. If you're doing anything in GitHub, you need to make sure you're updating your stuff locally as well. Once everything is all good to go, she can click the big green merge button. And if she wants to, she can delete the branch when she's done. If you want to keep your GitHub tidy, you maybe don't want those old feature branches hanging around if you've already merged it into main anyway. And there we have it. That is a whistle-stop tour of everything that you need to know to get started with working collaboratively with people in GitHub and working through a code review process with pull requests. Thanks very much.